Recording in progress.
All right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's hump day. Welcome to this council meeting today on August 30th. Call the meeting to order, and a portion of this city council meeting is conducted by teleconference, in that Councilmember Hoffa will request to participate today remotely by teleconference. We'll pass it to Clementine for roll call vote and announcements for how to participate in public comment.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Councilmember Hoffa.
I'm here.
Councilmember Smith.
Present.
Mayor Williamson.
Here.
And so for the safe attendance of our public meetings, wearing a mask is recommended and encouraged. Please keep your phones and devices in the chamber muted to prevent audio interference with our meeting. And there are two ways you can virtually participate remotely in our meeting. You may join us using the Zoom app on your computer or mobile device, and you can also call into the Zoom meeting. To join the meeting on Zoom using your computer, smartphone, or telephone, use the link or phone number on the agenda at isearchmonterey.org. An up-to-date version of Zoom software must be used. To call in by telephone, dial toll-free 833-568-8864, then enter meeting ID 160-772-9333 pound. And if prompted to enter a participant ID, press pound. Detailed instructions on using and updating Zoom are available at monterey.org/public meetings. To make a public comment using the Zoom app, you can virtually raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. If you're dialed in by phone, raise your hand by dialing *9 and then unmute yourself when called upon by dialing *6. You must do both. We'll keep public commenters muted until it is their turn to speak and call on them in the order of hands raised. Please stay within the time limit established for the meeting, and a timer will be shown on the screen. If you're connected live on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. And today's meeting is also streamed live on the city's YouTube account at youtube.com/City of Monterey with about 10 seconds delay, and on Comcast channel 25 with up to 90 seconds delay. And as always, we look forward to receiving public comment.
Thank you, Clementine. So this first item is an emergency circumstance remote participation for teleconference request. And just so folks know, there are two ways in which council members can participate virtually. There's the traditional way, and then there's this emergency measure that was created this year as an outcome of the pandemic. And so item number 1 on the agenda is to approve Councilmember Hoffa's request to attend remotely. I would like to now request that Councilmember Hoffa respond to the following questions. Councilmember Hoffa, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Were you able to hear our proceedings on this end up until now?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
Yes.
What is a brief explanation of your need to participate remotely under the emergency circumstances clause?
Yeah, I'm experiencing a medical health situation that makes it not possible for me to attend tonight, but I will be okay. So folks don't need to worry.
That's good to hear. Is anyone aged 18 or over with you in the room?
No.
The Brown Act requires that any votes taken during the teleconference portion of this meeting be taken by roll call. And with that, we will take it out to public comment for any comments on this item. Anybody in the chamber? All right, let's take it online, please.
There are no hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we'll bring it back to the council for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the staff recommendation and welcome Alan to be participating in the meeting.
For a second. All right, so it's moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Garcia.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffa.
I will abstain.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye. Yes.
Councilmember Barber.
Yes.
And Mayor Williamson.
That's a yes for me. All right. Thanks for being here with us today, Alan, and wishing you all the best in your recovery. So we'll go on to the public appearance item. Number 2 on the agenda is to provide direction on Madison Street Affordable Housing Project site plan, design, and parking plan. And with that, I'll pass it to Hans for staff presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have been talking to the team from MidPen since you authorized us to go forward with the preferred location and the the housing project directly behind City Hall. Tonight, what we would like to do is bring you, the council, as the landowner, up to speed where we are and where we are seeing a common ground with respect to the recommendation option number 4, and we will brief you on this as well. And what we would like to hear from you tonight is if you are agreeing with us going forward also with a recommended option, which the developer is suggesting number 4, and staff is also supporting option 4. So it will be tonight basically giving us directions as part of our exclusive negotiating agreements discussions to keep marching in the right direction. With your guidance, then also the developer Mid-Penn Housing will understand what the parameters are for this development. Mid-Penn Housing is a very mature, robust company with assets over $1.9 billion in their portfolio. They have over 500 employees, and we feel that Mid-Penn has been a solid partner throughout the past months. So with that, we have a staff presentation ready, and our community development director will share with you where we started and where we are today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, City Manager. This afternoon, we're delighted to present to you a progress update and also trying to obtain some feedback on a project that we're calling the Madison Street Affordable Housing Project. It's located directly behind City Hall, for those that are not familiar with it, at the intersection of Van Buren and Madison Streets. As I mentioned, the purpose of today's meeting is we're going to be providing you a general update on the project. And we're also looking forward to council feedback on the proposed site plan number 4, which includes the site plan, some parking areas, and general amenities. So this is a fairly high level review of the project. But before I did that, I wanted to briefly describe for the public. I know the city council's well aware of their prior actions, but just to chart how we got to where we are today. The city council has established a priority for affordable housing in our community. It's one of your key objectives. And in line with that, the city council asked city staff some time ago to inventory all city-owned properties. And through that inventory that was ultimately presented to the city council, we own a lot of parks, we own a lot of open space, we own the harbor, and we were able to narrow it down to 4 potential development sites that might be viable for affordable housing. The council ultimately released a request for proposal for affordable housing for 4 sites, one of them behind City Hall, 3 other located in the downtown. After reviewing those proposals, the city council ultimately picked the proposal from Mid-Penn Housing and the site located behind City Hall. And there was quite a bit of public participation through each of those phases. Ultimately, the city council authorized an exclusive negotiating agreement with Mid-Penn Housing to move the project forward. So Mid-Penn and the city have been hard at work. At a staff level, we've been meeting weekly on the proposed project and working through all of the required steps in an affordable housing development. Some of the key milestones from my perspective, from a staff perspective, we've been looking at the regulatory process and requirements. A site plan, there's several iterations of the site plan that I'll be sharing with you and sort of what the progress has been to date. Also, technical documents. We've had survey teams out in the back. We've had technical reports prepared. By we, actually, a lot of those have been prepared under the direction of Mid-Penn as the project developer. Hazardous materials studies, various technical reports that are always required prior to initiating a development. We've also been exploring jointly financing. And this is not the purpose of tonight's meeting by any means, but I do want to it's really been, from my perspective, a collaborative effort of what the city's brought to the table and what MidPen is also looking at independently. So just a reminder, the city is providing the land that has a value of somewhere north of $1 million. The water, the city is able to wield water from city-owned properties to this site. And really the value of that's priceless. What you see is other housing developments aren't able to go forward at all because of the lack of water. The city council previously has provided at least a nod to a $1.5 million general fund loan that would be used as part of the project financing. But the city and MidPen have also been working collaboratively on grant applications. There's been quite a bit of funding that we've been looking at. The city council previously authorized, we received a PLHA grant from the state of California that's intended to be a revolving loan fund for affordable housing. And you previously authorized approximately $56,000 for pre-development studies. This week, we will be filing an application where MidPen Housing did a lot of the technical work on the application itself, a lot of the groundwork, and then our staff is peer reviewing and refining it. We'll file a REAP application this week. I think it's actually due tomorrow for $2.5 million, and the council previously authorized that just a couple meetings ago. MidPen will also be pursuing funding. They'll be looking at conventional loans, tax credits, investor credits that are available for affordable housing, and vouchers. So by no means is this the final picture of the investment strategy for this project, but we've been working collaboratively towards looking at financing. So I'm just going to move into site plans and just show you how it evolved over time. And from my perspective, just big picture, it's optimizing the site behind a city hall is a balance of looking at the number of units, the parking, and site amenities. And I think you'll see that sliding scale as we eventually got the development team came up with site plan 4 based on substantial city comment and is a site plan that we support. So the initial project was 36 units. You can see it nestled there behind City Hall. I don't know if this doesn't have a red clicker or a highlighter, but you can see the courtyard development. So the buildings surround a courtyard. The parking on site would be intact. Right now, that parking lot behind City Hall has about 54 parking spaces, and Dutra Street 15 for a total of 69 spaces. This alternative would most likely be impossible to finance with the methods that we're looking at, and didn't really appear to be a feasible option for MidPen. I do want to point out it really has no additional site amenities. And when we went through community meetings as well as received public feedback, there was interest in having a community garden. There's discussion of a community playground, and then also the trees. This version, as currently shown, has the tree removals between the parking lot and the development, but no significant tree replacements. Next slide. And I think this is where the project started to get more exciting. I started to see it form more by the project team. They're getting up to 43 units, which is getting close to sort of that minimum critical mass you need for an affordable housing project. The parking lot was reconfigured to 41 spaces, 19 on Dutra for a total of 60. I think one of the disadvantages to this application or this potential plan as we looked at it was it didn't have the community garden. The playground was internal to the facility, which didn't really meet one of the early public comments we received that the neighborhood would like more playgrounds, in this general area. But what you do see here is a strong pedestrian connection from Van Buren Street into City Hall. You start to see replacement plantings that are significant. You see a tree program of removals and replacements. The next version, as it evolved, So this version's interesting. It has about the same number of units. It has a fewer parking spaces, 47 in the parking lot, total of 13 on Dutra Street. But you see behind the Vasquez Adobe, which is the recreation department, you see the introduction of a play area for children. You see a community garden. This version also looked at shutting down potentially Dutra Street between Madison as it came around. So you would have a complete pedestrian connection. Staff had some concerns about that because of we have a lot of people that use the spaces directly behind City Hall to pop in for their building permit or have, a quick interaction. There's some 24-minute spaces in that area. The next, and this is where the Mid-Penn team has a proposed plan, the site plan, which staff is also supportive of. And I'm going to just discuss that this is a lot more developed than the other versions. The others were, progressive drawings is moving towards this. This version actually reduces the units down to 42 units. There's looking at about 33 parking spaces in the parking lot. You start to see where ADA, the actual shape and forms. There's a couple of ADA spaces adjacent to the housing project, which results in reduction in parking because those spaces are wider. We still have the play area, the community garden. I believe Dutra becomes one way in this version, so we can have actually more parallel parking than exists today adjacent to City Hall, and then some additional parking behind Colton Hall. The other piece that this starts to problem solve is it provides 2 potential locations for city trash. As you probably know, as you walk out of this building, we have a couple dumpsters and recycling cans. One option, if you can show Nat, in the top right corner, adjacent to Van Buren Street, there's one potential location there where the trash truck could easily pull along Van Buren and provide trash service, or in the bottom right corner of the parking lot adjacent to Vasquez Adobe and the Dutra Street, right there, there's a potential we could do trash there. By no means are these final layouts, but it gives you an idea of how the site plan is evolving. And as we zoom in on the preferred site plan a little bit more, I'd like to talk about the project itself. I think what's interesting about it is historically, we've done some affordable housing projects. As you're well aware, we have the one down on Alvarado Street. We have the project behind the police station. The project behind the police station is 100% for seniors. The project on Alvarado Street has some 1 and 2 bedroom units, but this is really meant to be a family project. It has 1, 2, and 3 studios through 3 bedroom units. Roughly, we're looking at about 11 3 bedrooms, 11 2 bedrooms, 12 1 bedrooms, and 8 studios. So we're really seeing a good mix of housing types. It's 100% affordable, so there's no market rates in this particular project. It also includes adjacent to Addison Street, there's a community area so the residents themselves can come together within the development. Trash service is basically near the corner of Madison and Dutra for the building itself. It'll have its own separate trash area. And then within the courtyard, you start to see the development of benches and most likely amenities like barbecues and things where they can come together as a community. It's really nice to have an area you can pop out and barbecue and for your family. Next slide, please. So our requested action tonight is if you could please provide feedback on site plan number 4, so the design process may move forward. Next slide. And I do want to say this is by no means a final development plan. So what are some of the major things that we still need to work on? Obviously, what we're looking for is the opportunity, the architectural teams to move forward, to start to vertically design. That's a big step to go from general site plans to vertical representation of the project. We'll have to move through the entitlements that will be required for the project. We will continue to work with MedPen and collaboratively on the project financing. We're going to have to figure out parking management. By having fewer parking spaces behind City Hall, most likely that will result in more city employees having to have an alternative transportation scenario for city employees. We have parking lots in the downtown. We can do shared parking agreements. There's lots of things we can explore for parking and management. Tree removals and replacements. If the council does like this idea of this promenade and trees, we'll have to work just on an extensive landscape plan as this project comes forward. Public amenities are also going to need to be debated. You know, there's the park area that's shown, you know, how that's managed and how we handle that. Waste collection, we still have a lot of work to do in terms of, you know, as you get down to all the maneuvering and waste collection that we'll need for the site. And this is just a glimpse of some of the things that we're working on. The end of the ENA is in April of 2024. So I think we're well on track to meet our deadlines and meet the project objectives. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know MidPen has a presentation as well. So I'll pause right there.
Any questions from the council? Councilmember Hoffa.
Yeah, thank you very much. Regarding the park space and those amenities, I guess this actually might be a question more for MidPen, but I'm wondering if obviously there's community interest in that and just obviously it would improve the quality of the facility, but is there any benefit in terms of applying for grant money or that sort of thing? You know, is that another aspect of the role of the parks or the community garden?
Yeah. It definitely is. It is linked to the project financing, but I'll let MidPen respond to that in their presentation so you get an exact answer from them. It's related to the tax credit financing that they're looking.
Okay, and then the ADA, that I believe is obviously very important, both for the residents as well as for the public who may come to city council meetings. Could you speak to that? Like how would some of those Dutra sites be allocated for ADA so that, you know, if there's members of the public who come to a city council meeting that need it, they would be able to find that parking?
Absolutely. So if we go, and we can go back to the site plan for Nat, if possible. So right now, you may remember there's 2 ADA parking spaces behind Colton Hall with a path of travel established to business operations. This version keeps those 2 ADA spaces, so the City Hall would continue to be compliant. In addition, in the middle of the parking lot, adjacent to the housing development, are 2 more ADA spaces. And one of our staff members, Barbara Nelson, met with our building department today. And the breakoff point for a housing project, if you have between 26 or 50 parking spaces for that use, you have to have two ADA spaces. So I think this is by no means is this a final plan, but I think it has the rough structure of ADA compliance.
Okay, and last question. As far as like the community garden, I know that's something that the community is very interested in. Is it possible to locate that in another park, for example, Via Paraiso? We got a lot of space at Via Paraiso. I could imagine having a community garden there. Has staff given any consideration? And would that, if it was at Via Paraiso, which is what, maybe 4 blocks away, would that still benefit the project in its applications for grants or tax credits?
So the community garden, their financing isn't dependent or related to the community garden. It's related more to the play area for a family housing project. So for example, that whole area could become a play area. And the city, if you want us to investigate other locations for a community garden, we can do that. We haven't done that yet. We have a lot of parks. I could work with, our parks division and say, and just try to figure out if there's other potential locations for the community garden. And nor is there any requirement that we have one. It's just, I'm sure you remember during public comment, we had several people talk about the community garden.
Okay, that's all my questions for now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. I wanted to ask about the parking lot that is on Jefferson. I think it's a city parking that is used for a smaller number of city parks or city vehicles. I'm wondering what the count to that vehicle parking lot is, and if there was any consideration of what the potential parking count would be if we looked at the project all the way out to Jefferson, including the entire street, because you talked about the street possibly going to one way. What would that do to gaining additional parking all the way out to Jefferson, and what of that small parking lot that's there? So I'd like to include that into the conversation.
So the draft proposal only has one way from Madison Street outside to the corner of King Street on the other side of Colton Hall. So it wouldn't go all the way through to Jefferson Street, but you would still be able to go around like you currently can make a right on King and a left on Pierce to access Jefferson Street.
Okay.
We have not, well, I'll say this, we've had probably 2 meetings internally with our parking staff to start looking at if we do go down the option of looking at additional parking for city staff or the project, does that make most sense at the Cali Principal Garage? We have talked about that as well. There's some other parking lots within Middlebury down Pierce Street that are also currently publicly owned. So I think what we're looking for, if we have the site plan about right for this site, which we think we do, then we will start really looking at alternative options and spread out a little bit more from there.
Okay, and back to the tot lot conversation. Would the application be more viable for the developer to have a tot lot included?
So it's my understanding, and they can clarify, that their financing is dependent on a play area. It could be in the middle of the housing development.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be behind the Vasquez Adobe. But we also heard during the public meeting, if you remember, there was someone was saying maybe there's an opportunity to combine those needs, the community and the project, and come up with a solution. So that's what we tried to achieve. And I think I was, visually, as you drive down Van Buren Street, it's much more pleasant to look at a nice play area than a parking lot. If you remember that early version, we could expand parking behind there, or we could leave it as it is today and not have a community garden and not have a play area behind the Vasquez Adobe and move it within the development itself.
Okay. And does the building that used to be the city print shop have to come down?
Yes, there's actually 2 buildings there.
Okay.
There's the city print shop, and there's actually a small building that is used for city storage facing Van Buren Street. So there's 2 structures there. We have about 5 structures to the left on Madison Street.
Okay. One last question on the parking. The number of parking spaces that I think the chart for proposal 4 shows 42 units and 33 spaces. And then the on-site reduction is 33 parking spaces. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So is the displaced vehicles part of that number. So in other words, we have vehicles currently parked on the site of where the housing would be. I don't know how many spaces there are on the little area behind the first building. Looks like 7 or 8 where the garbage
Yeah,
is.
there's a
So
total of
are
8.
those numbers counted in the overall as displaced numbers?
No, they're not. So we will have to, what Councilmember Smith's referring to is we have some city parking of city vehicles. We will have to move those vehicles. And I'm pretty confident that we will find a location for those vehicles somewhere. I mean, we have the police lot and we have the fire department lot. We can also look at business operations to see if we can refine that number. If you remember what I said, when we look at optimizing this site, affordable housing, it's been our primary goal to put that behind. So where is that fine line? We're not going to be able to provide probably the city employee vehicle parking behind City Hall anymore. It will have to move maybe across the street, or we're going to have to figure out something slightly different.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to add that the parking lot on Jefferson Van Buren is owned by State Parks. So that's,
Oh, it is.
yeah, and
Okay.
there are six spots, but they belong to State Parks.
And we currently just are given permission to park our city vehicles there.
No, again, Jefferson Van Buren, we're talking
Okay,
on that side. So there are six paid parking spots, and the State Parks is owning that. So
okay, so I want to make
it's
sure.
not a city lot.
So yes, I understand that, but I want to make sure I've got the
Yeah.
location in my head. The location of that lot is where?
At the corner of Jefferson and Van Buren. So
Jefferson and
if you
Van
head
Buren,
out,
okay.
turn right, it's at the four-way stop on the right-hand side. That's the State Park stop.
Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Berber?
So thank you again for the presentation. So very quickly, I understand we're, being able to mitigate as much as we can dealing with the parking pieces for the opportunity to increase affordable housing. So we know about the city employees being impacted and how that is going day to day. But I understand like sometimes when they have the high school events that they utilize that parking back there as well. Sometimes is that true, or is that something that what's going to be talked about in the future, or is that
I'm not aware of
Okay.
the high school using our parking lots. I think we do have sometimes people from the neighborhood park in our parking lots that
Okay.
live across the street, but I'm not aware of the high
like when they
school.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Can I just add one comment because I think it's important. So the new state legislation that's come down, there is no parking requirement for a 100% affordable housing project. And we're also located fairly close to a high quality transit stop. So while we need to be smart about how we move people, this is going to be part of the transition of our community as we're doing smart infill and looking at providing affordable housing opportunities closer to jobs and balancing all this. I talked about optimization and we will eventually bring back, how we're going to handle City of Monterey employees.
So I just wanted to share appreciation to staff and to the MidPenn team for all the work getting to here. It's nice to see a transition where we're expanding the original plan to do something that's of greater value to the city. So I just appreciate everybody and their efforts there. In regards to the parking, and I don't want to, I know that my assumption is that we're going to move forward tonight with something that's going to be more progressive for the city and ideally moving forward with number 4. Of course, want to hear from the public, but assuming that we do move forward, it seems like the parking thing is going to be figured out. And so I hear that, but I just want to ask a few follow-up questions in regards to that. Has city staff thought about how we can better implement the multimodal plan as a opportunity to not just figure out where we're going to have city staff park elsewhere, which that there might have to be some mitigation there, but finding alternative modes of transportation and helping to support that and rewarding staff for finding alternative modes of transportation as a win-win for reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
We've certainly thought about it. We haven't come to any conclusions yet or preliminary proposals, but this is the new requirement through vehicle miles traveled to look at people, how they get to work, and to see if there's, how many people are willing to take the bus, how many people are willing to take the bike. If we do have people driving in, where and how will they park? I mean, those are, as you remember, when we adopted the vehicle miles traveled policy, this is the future. I'm excited that Monterey is sort of the first, the first project where we're going to be looking at that in more detail.
Did we consider, and I don't know the viability of allowing parking spaces for city staff in the police department parking lot?
Yeah, we've talked about all that, but the parking management plan yet, we haven't really
Gone to the,
I really wanted to get, if this looks good, then we'll take the next big step and start working on architectural drawings. And then we'll be internally as a city staff working on where and how we're going to move our people.
are the parking lots in the lot that would be remaining, would those be designated for, I'm assuming those would be designated for residents of the units, is that?
So I think all of that still has to be discussed. I think that's definitely an option. There's also, affordable housing projects no longer have a parking requirement under state law, because the idea is by putting them adjacent to high quality transit stops, there's a balance there, right? And so that's what we're going to be trying to achieve.
Okay, the reason why I asked that is one of the policies that I've seen exist out there is an opportunity for charging for parking and leaving that as a separate fee outside of the rent.
And bundling.
So, yeah. So just throwing that out. And then the last question in regards to the parking thing is charging stations. It seems like we have a lot of room to go, and
Yeah.
I know I'm maybe throwing some things out here with my questions, but is that something that's being discussed at all at this point, or?
Not specifically with this project, separate. Our sustainability division is working through 3CE. And as you know, we just converted several city accounts to 3CE, and there's opportunities for grants. And we're looking at a study with 3CE on EV, where it makes sense to have EV charging in the city of Monterey.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you, Kim. That's it for me. With that, we will take it out to,
MidPen has
Oh,
a presentation
okay.
first.
okay, would that be better for you? Okay. Let's,
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure, did we check with Gino? Does he have any questions?
he's good to go.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks for checking, Councilmember Hoffa. Why don't we do your presentation, and that way we can get that out, and that could be part of the comments from the public as well.
That's,
Sounds good. Good
Yeah.
evening, Council and Mayor Williamson. My name is Vanessa Diffenbaugh, and I'm a project manager with MidPen Housing. First, I just want to thank Kim. I'm going to try to keep my presentation really short because I think she did a really good job covering everything. And really just to thank her for her partnership. I know she has a million other things on her plate, but you can see that she really has prioritized this, and we are really grateful for her doing that. All right, next slide, please. So many of you have been on the council and know who we are, but I did want to just make sure to tell you a little bit about MidPen Housing for the public and the new council members. We are an affordable housing developer with over 50 years experience developing and operating properties in Northern and Central California. Our mission is to provide safe, affordable housing of high quality to those in need, to establish stability and opportunity in the lives of our residents, and foster diverse communities that allow people from all ethnic, social, and economic backgrounds to live in dignity, harmony, and mutual respect. Next slide. So here's just a few examples of the developments in our local communities. You can see the farm, which is a family property in Soquel, Parkhurst Terrace, which is also a family property in Aptos, Sayonara Court in Castroville, and then Van Buren Senior Housing, which you probably recognize, which is right around the corner here in Monterey. Next slide. I'd also just like to introduce our development team. Shweta Submaranian is our Chief Real Estate Officer. Joanna Carmen is here with me today. She's our Director of Development. She has more than 15 years experience in affordable housing, and I would say she's an absolute expert in financing and bringing very complicated projects to life. So we're lucky to have her. And then I have Carlos Guardo, who's my partner on this project, and he's actually a local Monterey High grad. So he's really happy to be here supporting this local project as well. Next slide. Next, I'd just like to take this opportunity to introduce our design team. They'll be speaking a little bit later, but I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to say how lucky we are to have them. These are two local architects who are incredibly talented. They both live here in Monterey, and they're partnering to work together on this project. Justin Pauly is a principal at Justin Pauly Architects. He currently sits on the Architectural Review Board for the City of Monterey. And Paul Davis, a partner at Paul Davis Partnership, is an expert in affordable housing with decades of experience and has also spent 10 years serving on the Historic Resource Commission for the City of Monterey. So I'm sure you guys probably know these two very well. So in the interest of time, I'll go really quickly through these next slides. I did just want to flag that we are also a property management company. So in addition to developing, we do manage our own properties with a commitment to being good neighbors, enhancing residents' lives, and sustainable operations and maintenance. Next slide. And we also have a services corporation, and we just tailor our services depending on the population we're building for. So that sometimes is youth programs, adult programs, or permanent supportive services if we're building a permanent supportive housing project. Next slide. All right, that brings us to the site. I think you guys know it well. You can go on to the next site. So this is just what we're proposing to build here, a little bit more details on the project overview. We're proposing 42 units of 100% affordable housing for families. This will be available to residents earning between 30 and 60% of area median income. The projected rent ranges will be between $600 for the least expensive studio up to $1,800 for the most expensive 3-bedroom apartment. We're working with the city. The city has requested 26 units. We'll have a preference for individuals who live or work in the city of Monterey. That still has to go through legal review, but we're committed to at least exploring that option with the city. And then it is highly ideal transit-oriented location, as Kim already mentioned, near schools and jobs. Next slide. All right, and I'm going to go quickly over this one too. Kim really did a great job reminding everyone of the RFP process. We were awarded 3 of the 4 sites. We decided to move forward with Madison really because we believed this was the most feasible. And I think I stood up here and said, you know, 42 units isn't going to solve the affordable housing problem, but we really want to get points on the board. And this is the project that we think we can make happen, hopefully on a pretty quick timeline, although affordable housing is never too quick. So we have started due diligence, kicked off design team, and then this is where we are today. We took the 3 initial feasibility studies created by our architect that were listed in Kim's presentation as options 1, 2, and 3. We met with individual stakeholders, including neighborhood groups and businesses, to gather input. We hosted a community meeting, inviting the community, the council, and neighborhood associations again. We took all that feedback and put it into the site plan that Kim already presented, which we submitted to the council as part of our required updated preliminary development package. And here we are today, hoping for some direction and support for the proposal in the hopes that we can move forward to the next steps, which is the next slide. Oh, I'm going to skip that because Kim did a great job and our architects are also going to talk about it. So finally, just to highlight a few upcoming milestones, we are submitting, or the city is submitting a REAP application tomorrow for some pre-development funds. That will be announced in October if we're successful, which we're pretty hopeful. That will start our time clock for pre-development. So we'll all have to really start working hard on that entitlement package, the DDA and ground lease negotiation, which we expect to happen in the spring. We'll continue working on designs and hope to apply for round 1 tax credit financing in February of 2025. We do need to have those site control documents, the DDA, the ground lease, and of course, our entitlements done before that. if we're successful, we would start construction about 6 months later in November of 2025. So finally, I'll just close by saying, I think you can tell a lot of work has gone into just get us to this moment, a lot of partnership and collaboration with the city. So I wanted to thank everyone for that. And I really look forward to your feedback. And I do think our design team has a few more details if you're open to that before public comment or during public comment.
Are there any questions at this point from the council? Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm not really sure whether this would be Kim or whether it be you, but one of the things I had noticed is that in site plan 3 and site plan 4, there's only difference of one where there's actually more housing units and more parking. And I think the difference, and I was just trying to get clarification, the difference was that there's no community garden in 3. Is that correct?
No, I actually wondered if someone would notice the difference in unit count. It does show 43 units on site plans, I think 2 and 3, and then only 42 in our final preferred option. That's just because once the design team really got into the details, we needed things like trash rooms and mechanical rooms, and they can speak to that. I think they have a whole list, but that's just sort of a more worked out plan with all the technical aspects that we need to build those units. So I think that's really the main difference between those last two.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
That was actually my question of why you liked one versus the other. So maybe maybe we'll shift it to the designers.
I think that'd be great. They have some great comments unless anyone has questions for me, and we'll be right here if you have questions other times. Oh, I definitely think Alan does also.
Let's let Gina go, and then I'll let you go, Alan.
Thank you. Can you speak a little bit, Vanessa? Thank you for the presentation, by the way, about the like the youth programming and community programming. Like, how does that look like in terms of its longevity within?
Yeah, so it's really different. It's a conversation we can continue to have with the city. I think in many of our family properties, we build a big community room and we operate services, after school program, that kind of thing. On this site, it's really small. So we will have a community room and some spaces, but what programs we offer on site, we'll determine together. I do think we're interested in partnering directly with Parks and Rec so that our residents have access to the schools and the Parks Department and the things that are already going on here. I mean, that's one of the things that's so exciting for me about this site is there really is so much opportunity here in Monterey. And I think our services might be more focused on connecting our residents to what already exists, and providing access to facilities here. But those are conversations, to be worked out.
Awesome. And then you mentioned also that 26 units would be at the moment targeted for Monterey residents, and that's pending
Live work. So people who live here or work here.
So in your experience, how likely or doable would be the opportunity to increase that number?
Oh, to increase that number?
Yeah.
So the reason that number is 26 is that we're hoping to get project-based vouchers on the other units. And that's to help with our long-term operating cash flow so that we can maintain the building over time. So we really need that subsidy, and it's not confirmed. We haven't applied for it, but we are really hoping to be able to get that subsidy. Those vouchers can't have a preference on them. And so that number is flexible. If we run our finances and we think we can offer 27 or 28, or if the city wants to contribute, a greater, portion of the financing stack, there are lots of different options we can discuss, but that's our best guess right now for how many we think we'd be able to offer.
So can you clarify also, let's say that the number ends up being 26, the remaining units, would those be open to?
So those would be project-based vouchers, and I believe that comes from the county housing authority list.
Got it. Okay. And in October, hopefully we'll be getting some good news about REAP.
We hope.
And what happens if the news is not favorable?
We'll keep working hard.
How does that impact the timeline?
That's a really good question. We Mid-Penn and the city already have put in some pre-development money. You put in 57,000, we put in 200 or so. And so I think we could go back to our board, we go to the city, we can apply for other local sources. You do need pre-development's really expensive to put together your design team and do all your studies. So this REAP money would be amazing because then we can all move forward and have a source for that. But I think we'll keep moving no matter what.
Yeah, I asked the same question a couple of weeks ago to Mid-Penn, and one of the things that gives us actually relatively confidence that we will be successful with the loan is that the city already adds scoring points into the grant application by allocating $1.5 million into that project. That will be a score that will be added, what other communities putting in, and so failure is not an option here.
All right.
So what he
Like
said
that
is if we
response.
fail, we all lose our jobs.
We don't want that. Fingers crossed. Thank you,
All right.
Alan?
Alan.
Yeah, Vanessa, thanks for the presentation. Whatever plan we move forward with, I'm sure we're gonna work it out and work out the parking concerns, but I did have a question for you. So it sounds like from Kim that under the current state law, we don't necessarily have to dedicate specific numbers of parking spaces to the project, but how important is it to you in terms of the viability of the project? Could some of the available parking spaces be made available for general public parking, let's say, for council meetings, that kind of thing? Could you
Yeah,
just speak to the
absolutely.
possibility of shared parking? Is that something that you could
Absolutely.
envision?
We've talked to the council and we're open to any number of options for some or all of the parking to be shared or divided in various ways. We're also open to our residents parking, in some of these underutilized city lots and having permits to do that. And we've built a loading zone into the plan so that they can unload groceries and then park a block or two away. So I do think it's solvable.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
I've got a question, if I could, Vanessa, while you're on the spot.
Yeah.
As you apply and your qualifications for available funding, is it increased because of the location,
Yes.
proximity to the library, because they have a community room, they have resources for families? So I'd like to know more about how does that pick up the eyes and look more favorable for your application?
Yeah, so I think I did present that at one city council meeting, and we are required to be near services in order to even apply for tax credit financing, for 9% tax credit financing. But we also get a bonus for being in what the state calls a highest opportunity area. So this is a competitive process, and the fact that we're a highest resource opportunity area gives us a 10% boost on our application, which is a really big deal. And also the other way you get a boost is that the city contributes local sources, as Hans was saying. So if the city does commit that 1.5 million from the general fund, that also will increase it's called a tiebreaker score. So both of those are really in our favor here.
Okay. And one last question. With this, all these plans, I think, are the same height. What's the general height of
I'm going to pass on that one and wait for the design team.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Sure.
Could you give the breakdown of the affordability levels of the total number of units? Is that possible?
It's possible, but not off the top of my head.
Okay.
So we can look that up.
I don't need it right now, but maybe whenever you can share that with the
Absolutely.
with the audience here. Okay, perfect. All right, let's have the design team come up and share. Thanks, Vanessa.
Good afternoon, council and mayor. My name is Justin Pauly. I'm really excited to partner with Paul Davis and Mid-Penn on this project, all of whom are absolute pros at the development of affordable housing. When we first saw the staff report, there were 4 plans presented and we were really worried because they felt like options. And I think Kim did a really excellent job of explaining that was sort of a pictorial representation of a a process that's occurred, and we've arrived at that fourth plan that we're all very excited about. And so I don't think we need to go through our whole presentation of those three previous plans. And instead, I'd just like to tell you some of the things that we're really excited about on the fourth plan. And just want to reiterate that staff has been tremendous throughout this process in terms of working on this and providing feedback in a really prompt manner in order to keep this moving. So in terms of, could we bring up the fourth plan from Kim's presentation? I think it's important to note how much the project was helped by being able to expand from that original footprint that had us sort of hemmed in by the trees in the corner. By expanding that parcel, what we were really able to do a lot of things. And one of the most important things was that we're able to decrease, we view this as a buffer lot. It's a buffer, it's a bridge between lower density single family residential neighborhood and a higher density commercial district. And I think by expanding the parcel, we're going to be able to front both Madison and Van Buren with two-story structures, so that this doesn't feel like a looming project as you come down into the commercial district of the city. By having that two-story, and then we take the three-story portions of the building and front them on the parking lot and the alley that faces City Hall, which I think is really important architecturally. One of the council members asked the height of the structures. Obviously, that's going to depend on, Kim mentioned that we're about to take this building vertical and, roof slopes and things like that. But I think the important thing to note is that we're 2 stories on the street frontages and we're 3 stories on the back of the parcel where it's not interfacing with the neighborhood. The other thing that we're really happy about is this pedestrian linkage that connects this parcel from Van Buren through the site onto the brick walkway and into the lawn in front of City Hall, which I view as one of the great civic spaces in Monterey, a really important part of the city. And to be able to connect this underutilized site and this neighborhood above City Hall with that space is a really important aspect of the project. The other thing that we're really proud of is that we're able to create public amenities like gardens and playgrounds, which benefit the entire community. A lot of times, I think Kim mentioned that this playground was sort of shoehorned into the courtyard. And what happens there is you end up with this affordable project that's sort of unto itself. And it's inclusive only for its residents. But by taking that programmatic element, moving it over to the Adobe, and welcoming the community to use it, I think it benefits everyone, and it makes this project more a part of the overall community. And another thing that we're really excited about over there is that we feel by placing those public amenities in front of the Vasquez Adobe, we somewhat liberate that Adobe. Right now, it feels very hemmed in by those sort of unfortunate accessory structures that have been placed in front of it. And it fronts onto what feels like a utility alley in a sense. And a lot of the character of Monterey is derived from not only these pedestrian corridors that link us to the various parts of the city, but the character of these historic adobes. And by taking down those accessory structures, by putting a public element in front of the adobe, we bring that adobe back into the fold of the civic structure of the city, which we think is really important. So we've created a high density affordable housing project. We've simultaneously provided numerous community benefits, and we've added to the existing walkable historic fabric of the city. We think it's just a really solid site plan at this point, and we really appreciate staff working with us.
Mayor, Constable, Paul Davis, and I'm equally pleased to be able to work with Justin on this and Mid-Penn. I started 30 years ago in designing affordable building projects, and they're farther away from a regular apartment project than you can believe. What goes into the programming, what goes into the spaces that we have to provide. Sure, it has trash rooms, it has mechanical rooms, but it has service rooms. It has spaces, it has places for different ages to be able to utilize their spaces. The community room is developed to hold programs for old and young. And on this site, you would think it's really flat, but it's not. And we're going to have to design a building that offers an accessible or a adaptable apartment at each apartment on the first floor. So we're going to have to be able to mold the site a bit to be able to do that. Also, with the state tax credit guidelines, we are required to design this building to the strictest levels of energy efficiency, of the tenant comfort and resilience. And so that's why I'll bring in my experience to be able to work on that part of the project. Any questions?
Questions? Dr. Barber?
Was just hoping that you would address, I believe Vanessa said you would address the site plan 3 and 4 difference there.
Site plan 3 has one extra unit.
Yeah.
And plan number 4 now has an enclosed trash room where unit used to be. We needed to take the building program elements and integrate it in that plan. And so Mid-Penn has a rigorous building guidelines for us to follow. I think we're going to try to bend some on this one, just because of how small the lot is. And but there's one thing you have to have is a trash room. And so that's the difference between the two.
Materials.
There's also a couple of, again, 4 is very much a development of site plan 3. If you look carefully at the site plans, you'll also note that it was in 4 that we added the ADA spaces. It was in 4 that we added the outdoor trash enclosures. It was also in 4 that we reopened Dutra, made it an offloading space, and added those parking spaces back in. So as Kim mentioned, this was an iterative process in our conversations with the city. There's not drastic differences between 3 and 4, but I would consider it more of a development in the progression of this building. Like we added the trash room, we added the maintenance room, we added the bike storage. Those things squeezed out a unit. Now, I wouldn't necessarily be certain that unit doesn't come back when we go vertical with the building. You know, we're going to do everything we can to get Mid-Penn as many units as we can without deviating from what we presented in terms of the site plan, but we're definitely gonna try.
Okay, thank you. So basically ADA wasn't in N1 and 2 or 3, is that correct?
ADA has
This
been
came
in
in.
our minds the entire process. And I
Okay.
think as you look at those site plans, maybe not 1, because that's very diagrammatic. If you look carefully and you zoom in on them, you'll see that the frontage on Van Buren is at 1 elevation. You'll see steps in the courtyard, a series of 3 steps that go to the mid-level. And then there's another series of 3 steps that go down to the lower level to mediate that about 3 or 4 feet of fall across the site. Now, all 3 of those elevations will be accessible by ramps.
Okay,
So by stepping the building like that, we just need to create these entry points at different parts of the site. But we have been thinking about it. Have we worked out the exact slope of the ramps and the guardrails and all that nitty gritty? No, but we've made it so that we know we can.
okay, thank you.
Summer Smith?
Yes. So I know we're a long ways away from final renderings. It goes to ARC and also goes to the planning. And you'll certainly get input from those respective commissions. But I also just wanted to say for the honor, and I know you're going to do that because you're from this town. You both served, and Paul, you've served prior and also on the planning commission, and you're currently on the ARC now. So I want to say that we've got to recognize the value of the neighborhood and the Old Town neighborhood and the Spanish flavor. So however that looks, I'm looking forward to see the evolution of how that comes out. But I'm certain that this is not a modern building type of effect, but actually when it's built and occupied, it'll have the flavor of what is our town, and especially the Old Town. So I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Councilmember Hoffa? Looks like you're good. You're good. Okay. All right. Thank you, gents. Appreciate your presentation. With that, Can I get a show of hands? And I'm asking for those that are online too. So if we get a count, can we get a show of hands of how many folks plan on speaking for public comment?
15.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do 2 minutes for public comment because we do have to get to a decision point tonight and the council meeting ends at 6 o'clock. So I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to speak. So let's just go ahead and get started and we'll set the clock for 2 minutes. We'll start here in the chambers.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. My name is Gary Curcio, and I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the Monterey County Hospitality Association. It's been quite a while since I've seen all of you in person, but I want you to know that I am online with Zoom and been paying close attention, but this particular topic is too important to do over Zoom. We represent 220 businesses that employ 25,000 hospitality workers. And I can tell you, we are really excited about this project. You know, I think we can all agree that no project is perfect. But let me tell you, this one is pretty darn close. You know, we've heard about why we can't build on your property in Fort Ord.
Keep going.
Okay. You screwed up my whole thing, by the way, but it's all right. So we heard Fort Ord, use your property in Fort Ord. We can't put affordable housing there. There's no transportation. There's no schools. There's no infrastructure. There's no this. There's no that. No one can take that stance on this particular project. It is perfect from the point of view of many, I mean, we would love to have 10 times more units available for our hospitality workers. It's just not possible. However, this will allow a couple dozen plus workers actually able to walk to work. It's unbelievable. We have employees that are commuting, even if you come from Salinas these days, you come westbound at 7:30 in the morning. Sometimes I urge all of you to take the staff's recommendation, go for number 4, and try to cut down the process, get to the meat.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you were going to say bumper to bumper traffic coming into town, weren't you?
And so just for everybody else to have a heads up, it'll beep once when you get to, when you have a minute left. So it'll turn yellow for you. So.
Might be, don't run the red light. Hi, my name is Mark Kelly, and I'm here this evening on behalf of the Hospitality Association. And I'm a resident of Old Town living on Franklin Street. Some of you know I ran a planning department at one point in my life, happy and bad memories. But what I did learn is a synonym of planning is paralysis. And that's what you're not doing. And the really danger part of this whole thing, because I saw Kim went out to 2025 and I was late getting here, but I had Zoom on my laptop and on my phone, so I could hear you and the other person as well. And I actually, what you were saying is so absolutely accurate in terms of the importance of the project and how you move forward with it. I'm sorry, I forgot Karen. I forgot. There she is.
There, yeah.
Damn. Well, there's a resemblance. What am I supposed to say? Anyway, I apologize. But what I want you all to know is please do not let paralysis object to the process. You know, one of the things that Kim said was that, you know, water, we found precious water. Well, a synonym to precious water is dinosaur eggs. They don't exist anymore. You have all there is. I mean, you're the only city. You've got it. You have the opportunity to do something that's incredibly special. And I've heard all the questions about parking. And, you know, when I was the planning director, we were a city undergoing redevelopment, trying to build affordable housing and market rate housing, and parking was always an issue. please don't let it be the paralysis of this process, because there will come a point where you're going to have to make a really tough decision on that issue. And don't let it stop the capacity of this project to move forward. I'm proud of you. Have a great weekend and enjoy Labor Day. Thank you.
And I'll throw out another comment before the next commenter, in that if you do have comments that you planned on speaking for 3 minutes, you can share those with staff, and we can have those be shared publicly as well. And council will take a look at those. Luis, off to you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. Luis Osorio, former Planning Commission member. I think this is an exciting time. This project is been talked about for years and years, and what it's doing now at this very juncture is it's forcing the community and forcing us all to look at the new vanishing point that we need to use in understanding planning and what's happening in terms of the needs of housing and doing things differently, because we're living in a different time now, and we're not 10, 15, not 5 years ago. This project is clear, it's become a very interesting mix of architecture, urban design, and landscaping architecture. And I think the project team and Mid-Penn have accomplished a great approach from that perspective. I think the site is great, obviously. The one thing that I wanted to, and I have not participated before, the one issue that I wanted to bring up is the Vasquez Adobe. It's a historic site, obviously, and I think there may be a chance here. I don't know what the configuration of Dutra Street was before it became a street, and what the back of Colton Hall used to be like. I think that if it hasn't been looked at, there may be an opportunity here to sort of reestablish, find out what that historicity was of the Vasquez Adobe, and trying to integrate that historical aspect of what it was into what's going to be. And then Dutra Street it's got the potential to become a great pedestrian corridor going on all the way to the school, to the pedestrian street there. So I think alternative 4 is what we need to go with. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy Soule. I'm with Old Town. I reside in Old Town. I'm also on the board. And I want to commend Mid-Penn for wonderful designs of the project. My concerns will be with the part of the parking. I love the site plan 4, but I think you can improve on it by taking the playground and the garden and putting them very close nearby, which I will show you. And instead using the parking in that one little section that is on site plan 2. The rest of it being the same. So if you took the little extra spaces in site plan 2, just the ones over where the proposed playground and garden is, I would like to show you where a better place would be. On this picture here, you can see from Pierce Street looking towards Pacific Street, you're looking at Friendly Plaza. This is a brick walkway that's going down to the left of the lawn that you see between Friendly Plaza and Jefferson Street, which is the street to your left, out of sight. Left of that lawn is a wonderful place for a playground. You would have tan bark, you would have all your trees, so you'd have shade, you would have greater space actually for some play equipment for kids to play on. And remember that not only would the kids of this apartment complex use it, but we get school children from all over the state that come, they run around the playground or run around the lawn at Colton because there is no place to play, but this is a much safer place to have a playground. You've got a place with benches for the families to eat their lunches, for the school kids to eat their lunches, to be supervised. It is above street level. And that is one of the problems. The Van Buren site is at street level. It's too easy for the contractors. I really need to present this. Can I have one more minute? It has to do with, oh, can you just show the slides and please, just to show where?
If I do, you have to do it for everybody else.
Nancy, can you send that all to us and we'll see it?
Okay, I have it there.
Thank you.
Anyway, it's all by the playground and, or it's all by Friendly Plaza.
Thank you, Nancy. Sorry about that.
So hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor Williamson and Council. My name is Veronica Miramontes. I'm the MPUSD School Board member here for area Monterey. And then I'm also the California Latino School Board Association Director at Large, as well as Delegate Assembly Region 9 for our region here in Monterey, San Luis Obispo. So I'm here to talk about the housing and wanting to make sure that my public comment is heard. I brought my kids along just because we're very busy, so I'm going to be darting out of here right after. But I definitely want to share that I personally have friends and family that live and work in Monterey. And unfortunately, it's very hard to find housing that is affordable. So they are working at the wharf, they're cooks at the wharf, they are hospitality workers. They're making sure that they can provide us real economic growth here in our community, but they have no place to live. We do have family members that are living doubled up in one home. We are MPUSD school members also are considered McKinney-Vento. We have 22% of our students that are unhoused. That means they're living in their cars, they're living in hotels, and we're providing that MPUSD some services for them to find a place to live. But I'm just really in favor of this. I'm hoping you guys can push it forward, make it happen. It would be great to see these families find homes and have a place to call home. And they're already here. So I just wanted to share that much. I think it's important for us to consider that it's a privilege if you choose parking over housing for a human being. So please make sure that you guys are having the right choices and making sure they're having housing for our families. And yeah, that is it. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for being the kiddos too.
Need to get my talking points up.
Give it to Nat.
Ready? Okay, hi. My name is Fatima Diaz and I'm a resident of Old Town Monterey. I live just up the hill. And I'm also a landlady and a property owner in the area. First of all, I wanted to say how proud I am of the council that you are finally, as a city, taking action to create some affordable housing. Affordable housing, somebody told me at Memorial Day that affordable housing, people think of it as tenements and slums. So the project that MidPenn has created is a beautiful, smart design. It maximizes space and it's provided, it will provide a quality addition to our neighborhood. In addition, it's going to ease the burden. The affordable housing is, it doesn't only help the people who live in the affordable housing. One of the big issues is for people coming back to Monterey who graduated and want to work here. So by creating these units, you're going to also help just regular middle-class family be able to have their kids come back and live and work in Monterey so that they're close to their kids, their grandkids. I think that you've done a great job of addressing the parking issue. And as a lady before me said, that you would prioritize parking before people who need homes is tragic. I mean, I walk around my neighborhood and I see the places where people live and they're very happy to have them. And that we could provide this would be great. And then I think, to Nancy's remarks, I think the playground and the garden are exactly what we need, and we need them where they are because everybody deserves a backyard. So these 42 units have just as much right to have a backyard as somebody who lives in a single family home. So congratulations and do it.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Arnold and I live in the Old Town neighborhood just up on Franklin. And I wasn't planning to say anything, and I'm completely supportive of this project. That's essentially why I'm here. I do have one slight concern, and that is related to the seasonal surge associated with people coming in and out, dropping their kids off for the rec department. for camping and other kinds of programs and registering their kids. I just would want to make sure that there's that's not present all year long. I wanted to make sure that there's some sensitivity to that, some planning around that. That's all I have to say, but great job.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council and staff. My name is Jane Parker. I grew up in Monterey, but when it was time to buy a house, couldn't afford it. But I'm happy to be here. My sister and brother actually still live in Monterey, and I think I can speak for all of us to say how much we appreciate the council and the staff's work on affordable housing over the years. It's been a little bit here, a little bit there, but this project is really a boon. And I really also want to commend the city for stepping up and providing the land. It's one of the biggest costs. And I hope that in this whole process of the financing and getting goodie points for this and that the cost of the land is also, I'm sure it's being calculated in there somewhere. But I think this project, option number 4, really well thought out, including the parking. I mean, a lot of creativity being shown there. And I say, we need it. Let's build it. Thanks.
Thank you. And in sharing that, that was also our previous County Board of Supervisors. So thanks for being here, previous Supervisor Parker.
Good afternoon, Council and Mr. Mayor. This is a little out of my comfort zone, so bear with me. I'm at Jackson Everett. I'm a current senior at Monterey High School. I also live around here. I'm here to represent the student and youth perspective of Monterey High School and just the district wide. MPUSD has a student population of 9,574 students. Over 22% of students qualify as homeless, and 17.4% here specifically, which is a crazy number, and it's not acceptable, and there needs to be change. Under the McKinney-Vento definition, a student who is considered homeless is either living in a shared space, hotel, trailer park, emergency shelters, cars, abandoned buildings, or just are migrating all the time. And I know students specifically who struggle with these problems, and it's hard for me to go every day and have to know, like, the kids that I go to school with are struggling with these problems. So I go to school every day. Tonight, whether that is because their family can afford to put down a security deposit, or they just can't afford to pay monthly rent, this project can make such a significant difference in the lives of youth and their families. I would be doing my school community a disservice by not being here today. Supporting the improvement of this affordable housing development. I hope that the city of Monterey can look at the positive impact that this will have and the widespread battle that our area faces with homeless youth. Thank you so much.
Mr. Eaton, I just want to say, I appreciate you being here tonight. And on behalf of the council, we're really proud of you for stepping forward. We don't get to see a lot of youth come in here, so I'm really thankful for you being here today.
Thank you, Jack. And by the way, go Doors.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gabriel Sanders. I'm the Director of Housing and Community Development for the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. It's great to see you all here today advancing this project because it's exactly what the city needs, and it sets a great precedent for what affordable housing can look like. 2,408 is going to become 2,366. Yeah.
Four.
Yeah. I think that's, oh yeah, there you go. One project at a time. I'm not a quant, so one project at a time though. This is setting a precedent for how you use the land inside the city to address affordable housing needs. The Monterey Bay Economic Partnership is happy to support this project wholeheartedly, and we really hope that you see it through. And I, as a resident of Old Town, I walked here. I walked to work. This is work for me in a weird sense, even though I'm wearing sandals. I wish more people had the opportunity to live and work like that. It's a real privilege, and it costs a lot of money to live here as it is. But when I saw those rental prices, I almost actually teared up. for the people who will get to live there and the difference it's going to make in their lives. So I urge you to see this project through and do whatever you can to support projects like this all over the city over the next 8 years and beyond. So good job.
We appreciate you and MBEP. And MBEP has shared a letter that's available along with all the other public comments on our public portal if folks want to take a look at those.
Good evening, Mayor Williamson, City Council members and staff. My name is Amanda Whitmire. I'm a resident of Monterey, a mom to 2 kids who go to Monte Vista just up the way, and a trustee on the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District Board of Education. I'm speaking today as your constituent, but my work on the school board really heavily informs my perspective on the need for housing on the Monterey Peninsula. I'm here to encourage you to pick a plan, looks like Plan 4, and help Mid-Penn move forward on the Madison Street Affordable Housing Project. And Mr. Everett really stole my thunder on this one, but I wanted to share with you that MPUSD is required to identify and support students who are experiencing homelessness. And as you heard, at the end of last school year, we had a total enrollment of 9,885 students, and of those, 2,235 qualified as homeless under the McKinney-Vento Act. That's 22% of our student population. We get more detailed information as trustees, and what those numbers were that 116 of those students were living in a hotel or motel, 53 were living in a shelter, and 19 were actually unsheltered. So our McKinney-Vento liaisons are still working to identify students at the beginning of this school year, but the numbers really haven't changed, and they haven't changed since I've been monitoring them since 2019, which is when I started getting these data. So another struggle that we face as a district is that MPUSD loses 125 teachers every year. That's 20% of our teaching workforce. We interview these teachers when they leave, and when we ask them why they're leaving, many say that they love working in the district, they want to stay, but they can't afford to live on the peninsula. They just can't afford to stay. So the high teacher turnover really harms the district in several ways. The instability is really hard on our vulnerable students who really crave the stability of teacher and community at their schools. It really hits HR hard to have to replace that many positions every year. We should be spending our money in other ways. And it's really difficult on our veteran teachers who mentor and support all these new teachers having to come in. So overall, just really here to support this project and encourage you to work with Mid-Penn and get this thing going. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Alice Crawford, and my only title here today is that I'm a neighbor. So I have something to say about this project, and I think it's wonderful. I have to tell you, I have been I've lived here for about 33 years now, and I walk downtown, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a week for various reasons. And I've been wondering for years what you're going to do with this awful eyesore up here. I cannot imagine a better use of this property. I think your plan number 4 is fabulous. And I love your comment about keeping with the Spanish theme. I hope that's the case. So carry on. Good job, you guys.
Thank you, Alice.
And Alice was my management professor at the NPS.
What was his grade?
So it was an A.
We want proof.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council, members of Mid-Penn, city staff. The Monterey Peninsula Chamber of, my name is Monica Law. The Monterey Peninsula Chamber of Commerce continues to support your efforts to reach agreement on terms for density housing construction adjacent to City Hall that would be affordable to ordinary residents. The location of the proposed project, now occupied by blighted buildings, is within walking distance of important centers of commerce and government on the Monterey Peninsula. It would benefit the economy, the community, and the environment if employees of our downtown and wharf restaurants, hotel, and retail establishments were able to walk rather than driving into Monterey from elsewhere. Traffic has been unbelievable for my staff, unusually. I'm born and raised here. I appreciate Monterey. I live in Monterey. I get to work, have my kids in school within 5 miles. It's a luxury. This is a terrific project. We support it wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Good evening. My name's Catherine, and I'm a resident of an Old Town neighborhood. I'm often up here in my professional capacity, but today I am not. I get to be a resident in this neighborhood. So I'd like to express my support for this project generally and for site plan version 4 as staff recommends you support. Mid-Penn, the design team and city staff have done a great job navigating a very tight site with definite logistics challenges. And I'm certain that the design team has done everything they can think of to maximize the housing unit counts, the parking counts, all while maintaining a solid community benefit. One of the reasons I love living in this neighborhood personally is the walkability. And this project is an excellent location and will allow folks to walk or bike to work or amenities, reducing the need for cars and long commutes. And that will be truly life-changing for future residents who might currently be facing an hours-long commute to Salinas or South County or another nearby town. So I encourage you to move forward with supporting site plan version 4 as recommended by staff. I'm super excited to see this project get off the ground.
Thanks, Catherine.
Good afternoon. I'm Annie Notoff and I'm with Land Watch, and Land Watch did submit a letter in support of this project, and it's very exciting to hear all the details come together, and I urge your support.
Thank you, Annie.
Hi. My name's Tim Gaddis. I want to thank the mayor, the council, staff, and the consultants and architects for their hard work on this project. I spent 50 years at the School of Medicine at Stanford in 3 different careers. The last 20 were in facilities and planning. You've got a dream team right here with the city and the consultants and the architects. You have done the work. You need to get the project done. This project should serve as a beacon to other cities for how you work together, for how you get these absolutely necessary projects designed, funded, and built. Monterey needs this, as do other cities. Herald this to your colleagues, to your compatriots, to other cities. When you go to a conference, you present this and you talk about it and you make certain that people understand. This is top drawer.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi,
Terry.
Mayor Williamson and council. I am Terry Pipes, and I taught in this school district for 37 years. And a lot of that time was working and coaching new teachers. And I was heartbroken numerous times because after 2 years, they'd leave because they couldn't afford it. And they were such good teachers. And so I am so happy to hear about this project. And just wanted to let you know, thank you. This is great. And I hope we get to do a lot more of these. Thanks.
Thanks, Terry.
Hello, my name is Maria Rendon. I've been a community member for the past 29 years. I'm here to speak about how it has impacted my family, but also how it has impacted many of the people that I know. I'm a mother of 4 kids. I have to work 2 or 3 jobs to be able to make it for rent. But as you know, high rent doesn't really allow you to save for any savings. I've been a server, I've been a house cleaner, and currently I'm a caregiver. And I'm really scared to age in this area. It has become a challenge lately because I really like to show up for my kids' activities at school, parent meetings, and all of that. I have been a PTA member, vice president. Lately, I haven't done any of that because it has become even a challenge to go and pick up my kids from school. I love to cook for my family. It has become a challenge now. I'm not able to do that anymore as often as I used to. I'm just really worried about the rent increases, and there's a really high need for affordable housing. I want to thank Mid-Penn and council members. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing.
Hello, my name is Phyllis Bussey. I live in Old Town. We're relatively new to the community and we're happy to be living in paradise. I love Site Plan 4. It's wonderful. I highly urge you to go forward with it. my favorite part about it. It's beautiful, it's low profile, it fits the community. I love the green space. And I am so happy that you are choosing a community garden and a park, a playground over parking spaces. And I hope as Monterey looks forward to having to build 3,000, I think, additional housing units over the next decade, that you will keep that in mind and continue to choose green space and our children and playgrounds over a few parking spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the chamber wish to speak on this item? Okay, we'll take it online. And how many do we have?
5 hands raised.
5 hands. Okay.
It's going up now.
7.
so-
Okay.
I'll call first on Jose Torres. Go ahead, please.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Williamson, council members, city staff, Mid-Penn housing staff, and members of residents of the city of Monterey. Jose Torres representing Landwatch Monterey County, and I'm joining you tonight from your neighboring city in Seaside. I'm here to express my strong support for the city of Monterey's partnership with Mid-Penn Housing and for the pre-development REAP funding application. It is an initiative which aligns with responsible land use and sustainable growth. These are principles we deeply value. And what's particularly noteworthy about this project is the 100% affordability commitment. And Monterey is addressing the critical need for accessible housing, and this bold approach sets a very positive precedent for future endeavors. We commend the City Council's choice for infill development. It's a step in the right direction, and the choice demonstrates a progressive approach to urban planning. Our appreciation goes out to the city, to the council for their strategic decision-making. The chosen location behind City Hall is well considered, and will be providing residents with convenient access to downtown amenities. It's a move that really speaks to a thriving and connected community. Monterey's pursuit of this REAP 2.0 opportunity grant is a commendable one, and Landwatch Monterey County stands ready to support and collaborate. Lastly, we'd like to applaud the City Council's commitment to advancing this much-needed affordable housing project. It's a pivotal step toward a stronger, more inclusive, and healthier community. And so thank you. And since I have 23 seconds off the cuff postscript, I just want to support the mayor in his idea of incentivizing staff to ride bikes. I'm all for it. I did it this morning and I was able to beat my neighbor from Seaside to Monterey. And he was surprised to meet me at the coffee shop. So thank you for your work, and I really look forward to this wonderful project.
Sorry about that delay. I'm going to call in Esther Malkin.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am actually in such awe of not a single opposition to this project. It is so nice to see every part of the community come out in favor of this, and super proud of our current council and staff for doing such a great job. This is exactly what I, as a renter and homelessness prevention advocate, have been pushing for many years. And part of when I started getting involved, I actually said to Councilmember Alan Hoffa, how can we get 100% affordable housing? Because with 20% required from market rate development, we will never have enough housing. And he said to me, the only way is if the city provides the land. And that's what started me down the path of pushing for these kind of projects. And I had to push hard. Staff will remember that I was not shy about coming after finding locations. I'm super excited about this. I just wanted to make a comment about the presentation saying AMI and using that term instead of quantifying that with dollars so that the average person can understand what it actually means. I wanted to point out that the residents that are most likely that are going to be able to use alternative methods to get to work are going to be the workers that are here already. So the more of them that we can accommodate, the better, rather than have them come in from the rest of the county. And I'd also like to caution Mid-Penn and the staff to look at what happened at the Van Buren project and see why it took so long, what can be corrected and not repeated, as well as hopefully doing a better way of managing the wait list that has never been below 1,000 from what I'm told. Thank you.
All right, the next speaker is Jean Rush.
Hi, thank you. It's Jean Rash. I hope you'll listen closely to Nancy Soleil's suggestion, because I think you can have an better improved plan for. The amenities at that location are understated. As Councilmember Hoffa said, it's 4 to 5 blocks to Via Paraiso Park. You have all of Colton Lawn available. You have the library kitty corner that has community rooms, the solarium, all the enrichment of a library. You're in an ideal location. I think you could have everything. Put some of the playground in different aspects of the lawn, of the Colton lawn. And yes, the nasty word, keep a little bit more of the parking. Why? Because it is the civic center of the city. It is the democratic center where we all come. I bet everyone in Chambers right now who's not on a bicycle is parked in that parking lot. It's a valuable commodity. Our city goes from Ryan Ranch to the ocean. It's about 11 miles. We do need a parking lot for our civic events. We have not required any parking for the new structure. We're taking away city parking. That will unfortunately be an issue. We can have it all. We can have the garden, we can have the exercise area for children, and we can have a little bit more parking. If you'll just broaden 4A out, think a little bit bigger, expand it, and listen to Nancy Soleil. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next speaker is Anna.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. I am Ana Luz, former downtown Monterey resident and also part of COPA. And I wanted to applaud all of your guys' effort on this work. I know that it must have taken a lot of time and a lot of negotiation, but I will point out I'm actually in the opposite spectrum of what the previous lady mentioned. I actually think you should just get rid of all the parking and replace it with expanded housing, because I think when you are comparing housing to parking lot, there's just no talk about humanity right there. And I actually think that you have a 2 and 3 story design. I would recommend a 3 and 4 story design. Essentially just add 1 more floor to whatever you have there, because we do need to maximize density. It's a really, really big need. And I think if you really, really gotta put the parking, can you do underground parking lot? Like, that's possible. I lived many years in the Bay Area, and that's pretty much the norm. So if you need a compromise for parking, I think you might be worth considering underground parking and just maximize the surface area for more housing. And like I think Mayor was mentioning the possibility of charging for parking. Yeah, by all means. Like, we are at a point where everything should be like driven by like walking, biking, public transit. So this is such a premium on parking that we cannot be affording at this day and age, especially with the housing conditions, like all the pressing needs, and also with the climate change. So I just think if it was up to me, I'd get rid of all the parking there, and it could just be somewhere else. People could park further away. It's walking. It's healthier for them anyway. And can we prioritize the families from the high school students that are homeless to give them housing from this subset to prioritize the urgency to first come for this great facility that you guys are building. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Richard Russello.
Good evening, Monterey City Council. Richard Russello. I love the rental chart on that proposal. I'm so tired of market rate rents and driving out lower income people. I want to give a different perspective on the historic Colton Hall and the room you're in. If you'll look over the rear door, you'll see capacity 135. I have been there dozens of times when there were standing room only there. And in the dark, in the rain, parking is vital for public participation. Don't change the housing, but make sure the parking lot is at least 70 plus places, including Dutcher Street. Move the amenities like they've mentioned. We have to maintain public access or we will destroy democracy. That's the way government should work. And I agree with the other speakers. The problem with teachers in MQSD, you do not pay a living wage. That has to be done. They're taking care of our children. They're educating them. We should take care of the teachers. But please look at the parking, look how it's going to change. And I'm sorry, the previous speaker, I can't walk that far. Many of us can't. We want to participate in our community. We have to have close-in access. So when the plans come, I hear dancing and math about the parking. We have to be able to accommodate the building you're in. Build the housing. Take care of the parking too. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. And next we have Joan Costello. Go ahead, please.
Costello, born and raised in Monterey, but I live in Seaside now. I came tonight to support Vanessa and Mid-Penn and the council moving this project forward, but looks like you didn't need any extra voices. What I will add to it is that I will be talking to Seaside City Council in my public comments and pointing out this project. I'm so proud of it. It's just a beautiful project. It will house some of those kids who we are so worried about in our school district, maybe even some teachers. So thank you so much and keep it moving forward. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. And next is Marianne Boylan.
Yes, thank you very much. I wasn't going to speak tonight. I have sent a letter to all of you. However, Esther, you stole my thunder. I just wanted to say I've been to many council meetings, mostly Zoom, but nonetheless, I have never seen anybody or any project that had no people against it. So I think I know how you need to vote. I want to support the teacher housing. I hope that they can have some access with it as well, because being a former educator, I lost many teachers to not being able to afford just to stay here. So thank you. I want to say I support whatever number 4 and keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, there are no more hands raised at this time.
Okay. Let me try to find my notes here. So I know that there's a lot of space to have conversation with the council at this point, and I want to open it up for discussion and deliberation. But given our time, I just want to ask if it's possible to limit questions, and if you can pose them in the form of comments to give to staff as they move forward with the planning. I think really what we're trying to figure out tonight is giving direction on moving forward with option 4 is an option or some other alternative. So if we can try to maybe get to a point of making a motion here quickly so that we can move on with the agenda. We are planned to have closed session, though it looks like it might be good to postpone that, but we need to do the procedural stuff with that too. So with that being said, I'll open it up for discussion and deliberation, and let's try to get to a motion here quickly if we could. Gino.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone who came out and logged in online to have your voice heard. Very important topic, very exciting topic. When I was reviewing the 4 plans, I guess I can start off by saying I will support the plan number 4, which is the developer's preferred option. I did think about what the items are for plan number 2. And as a parent, my attention immediately went to where the playground is located. So looking at plan number 2, I really enjoyed the idea of having my kids go out the front door and be at the playground right away. And also, I really enjoyed the idea of being able to keep my eyes on them. And not only my eyes, but the eyes of the other neighbors. That, I think, for community does something in terms of safety. Now, I think the renderings, it's a little difficult to really visualize, at least for me, how welcoming or how open the space would be for other neighbors in the neighborhood, for them to be able to use the play area. So I also get that. I get that we could potentially, as my colleague says, we could be feeding 2 birds with 1 scone, where he doesn't like the violent reference in the other. But yeah, so putting the play area outside of the what would you call that, like the court area of the building, does serve multiple purposes, and I can support that. Now, looking down or going down that path, supporting the play area in the area where it's located on site plan number 4. My concern there is that basically the building is surrounded potentially by traffic on all 4 sides. So in an ideal world for me, great to have the play area there where it's located, plan number 4, great to have the garden. But maybe we look at the elements of site plan number 3, where there's a walking area between basically City Hall and the building. That would be something that I would prefer, because it also speaks to the effort of creating a more walkable area in this whole neighborhood. I really enjoy, and we heard this through public comment as well, the fact that this location is perfect, where a family can walk there, or their high school student can walk to school. I know that teens don't like to be walked by their parents at that age. And then library right down the street, grocery store right down the street, transit center right down the street. And I think knowing that all those amenities are available, I'm okay with sacrificing parking spaces so that we can have more housing for our residents who really need it. So that's where I stand. I support plan number 4 with those other ideas.
Awesome. Thank you, Gino. Councilmember Robert.
So in essence of time, I'm basically going to say the same thing. I support site plan 4, but just making sure that we're focusing on housing and how to mitigate that, dealing with city staff as much as possible. Not to the point of taking away from the project, of course, but remembering and keeping in mind that we still want to keep city staff in mind of what they need to do and when they're coming, and that everybody's not going to ride a bike all at one time. That's a great dream, but it's not going to happen all at once. So to be able to have some plan that keeping them in mind, I think will be great. But I think this is wonderful. I think it's really important to get everybody on board with the helping out with all these homeless children that are coming and going to school at the high school. That's just, and that's not a static number. That's just something that they're getting a moment in time. So I support it. And whenever you're ready for a motion, I'm ready for a motion.
Okay. Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, these are concepts that we don't have a lot of specifics just yet, but they're helpful. We've heard the reasons why site 4 is recommended by city staff and the developer as well. So I think it's important to weigh in on that. So to address some of the comments from some of the speakers, this isn't an either or. We realize functionally we're going to have parking close to the city hall. We can't just completely lose the thought that we don't have, we have to have a parking lot for our council members. We can walk, don't worry about us, but what about our visitors that come to the city council? I can think back some of the recent council members where we faced a whole crowd, the room was full and the parking lot was full because public had access to come and have their participation with government. Site 4 seems to be the prevailing. City staff has some challenges ahead. By our action tonight, they're still going to have challenges for parking. We're going to have to really fine tune what we do with our parking, our employee parking, our need for parking on council nights, planning commission nights, architecture review commission nights, neighborhood improvement nights. We have a lot of things that happen here at night. So our challenge becomes then how do we manage the parking sites we have at the library, at the far end of the police department parking lot, the fire department parking lot. And there's not a lot of space in the public safety parking lot. Believe it or not, when you look out there, if you come back at 11 o'clock at night, there's a lot of cars that are parked there. So we have to manage that resource. And we're also going to probably have to go to something like Pacific Street, limited parking at certain times. So parking is available on council nights or planning commission nights where residents are not able to park or they need to be able to park close to the city government center for meetings. So we're going to have to manage the parking resource within 75 yards of this building. So city staff's got a big challenge ahead of them. I don't think it's unreasonable to still keep our eye to a couple of suggestions we heard tonight. What I heard was that if we looked at the Colton Hall area around the trees, maybe that's a viable spot for TOT, or for a tot lot. So I'd like to keep our eye to the option of there may be a place that the tot lot should go instead of in the corner because parking is valuable, but it doesn't mean the project doesn't get built. The project should still move ahead. But I want to say that we should not completely throw out the idea that the tot lot could be relocated somewhere where there's already available space, freeing up the tot lot from the congestion of being close to a parking lot. I don't think that's really always that favorable anyway, but that might be more valuable parking spots that are going to serve the needs of Colton Hall footprint on nights where we have council. If you look at the parking lot at 5 o'clock during a council night and these seats are full, that parking lot is full. So where do all those people go in the future? They can't all walk and they can't all ride their bikes and they can't all just park faraway places further than Pacific Street. So we have to be careful to recognize a sufficient and adequate number of parking spaces close to City Hall. And that means that we're going to hear more about this when it comes back from city staff. And city staff, I think I heard them say they've got their work cut out for them tonight. And they're committing to continue with that. That means a parking plan, reinvestment in what we do with the public safety parking lot, how we manage our parking spaces on Pacific Street, Van Buren, and how we make sure we reserve adequate parking spaces wherever they are on council nights that our public can come and participate. To me, losing 21 parking spaces is not an easy choice. and I don't like having to make that choice. But I'm hoping that council will come back and tell me that they found additional spots that they can create where our loss is not 21, but maybe it's only 6 or 7, because they've found other parking spaces that are down on Pierce and Dutra and King and Jefferson and the city lot. So I'm going to support Plan 4 because it makes sense and it's the best thing we can get in the balance. But I really, really do want to see a focus on how we retain close proximity of parking. And I don't want to rule out the possibility that relocation of a tot lot in the city lawn area or under the trees might be a viable option. So tonight's motion may be that we like Plan 4, but I could live with that if I know that the developers and the planning department and our staff that's been hired by a MidPen cannot completely rule out an alternative redesign of the TOT lot and still not lose the full credit and ability to qualify as much as they can. So I'm not sure what the motion will be, but it's sort of a hybrid. I like the plan. Plan 4 is good. I'm ready to move ahead with that, but I don't want to lose out on the fact that we might have a better place for the tot lot at the end of the day. And these are concepts right now.
Okay, Councilmember Hoffa.
Thank you so much. I want to start off by, first of all, expressing my appreciation to all of the community who came out and spoke. It's just one of the most proudest moments I've ever felt for this community. That it's just really special. Second of all, I'm supportive of moving forward. I think Mark Kelly's comment that we don't want to let the perfect get in the way of great and slow down this process. So I am supportive of moving forward with the site project 4, which I think is kind of where we're heading. I did want to say that coming into this meeting, my thinking was very similar to Nancy Soleil and Gene Rash and Ed Smith and his comments there. I do think while housing and people are more important than parking, there is an important element of this particular site. We do need to make sure there's public access for our meetings. I do like the mayor's suggestion of trying to find ways to incentivize alternative modes for staff. I do believe our staff and the council do not need to park immediately adjacent to City Hall. I think we can find ways for them to park other places, for us to park other places, and to bike. I do think that there may be, and here I'm kind of aligned with what Ed was saying, that I would like to, maybe envision a motion where we support site project 4, but we encourage the development team and staff to still be open to other ideas. And they certainly, as we move forward, there has to be a plan to make sure that there's public access. And one last thing on public access that's kind of changed. We had 5 people commenting over Zoom, and I don't think that's going to change. We've got more people than in the past who participate remotely, and that's a good thing. And so that is another alternative. And the last thing on parking though, too, most people can walk 2 or 3 blocks, and guess what? It'll actually be good for our health. But there are some people who can't. And we have to make sure, and that's why I was asking about the ADA, we have to make sure that there is some parking very close for those who really, either because of disability or age, cannot walk 2 or 3 blocks from the Cali P parking garage or the downtown parking garage. So anyway, maybe I would make, if it's okay, Mr. Mayor, well, I'm thinking about a motion, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
Yeah, I'll jump in and I'll throw it back to you. Alan, to make the motion. I'll start off my comments by just identifying not only appreciation for the team, but also just historically, I think we have to celebrate the successes of the city of Monterey. As I understand it, the city of Monterey is the most dense city in the entire county. So our predecessors have done a lot of great work to set us up to where we are. Of course, it's been a great challenge for the last several decades because of the issues surrounding the water. Hopefully we're moving forward in a positive direction there. We have water for this project, and it's great that we've managed the resources in a way to allow this project to move forward. I'm not sure if you were able to find the affordability levels, but if not, we can maybe just bring it back in a future iteration. I think that I hear the concerns around the idea of where to put the community garden and the park, and I hear where you're trying to go with the motion. Though, as I understand it, and if I can have staff just confirm for me, that us saying that we are okay with number 4 tonight isn't locking us into anything. This is just giving general idea that we're good to move forward with that, and that will go into the negotiation as we move forward with Mid-Penn. Is that accurate?
Yes, and thank you for giving me a chance to briefly speak as well. It doesn't lock you in. What is important in option number 4 is that basically the footprint that we originally had proposed in the RFP is now extending beyond the original RFP. When Mid-Penn submitted the first proposal with the 30 plus something units, it was based on the footprint that we had prescribed, and now by us talking to each other, maximizing housing units, you will see a larger footprint, and that will cost us to a certain degree parking. This project, since it's 100% affordable housing, will qualify for SB 35, which is a streamlined review process also. So what you will see from us bringing back to you is the final exclusive negotiating agreement, the ENA, which will contain details about the parking and other details. The ENA that we are striving to, I think Vanessa, you spoke April 20, DDA. That will address the parking to the fullest extent. The project itself will be in a streamlined ministerial approval process through SB 35. So you need to understand that also as the property owner, that since it's 100% affordable, SB 35 will be applied.
Okay, perfect. Just a few other comments here. I hope that one of my asks for staff is that maybe we can provide a space for not just the council, but the public to be able to see what a draft looks like of areas for the public to engage. This is important.
Apologize.
No, I know she has said,
yeah.
So just to follow up on it, I'm hoping that we can develop a draft of maybe a timeline of the different stages in the process that the public and the council are able to engage. That way we're creating a little bit of transparency and making it easier for folks to understand where they might be plugged in and engaged, knowing that this is a somewhat fluid process and things might shift. But that way it can be a live document that maybe we update and make sure it's clear that it's a draft. I think that would be really helpful so that we know, so that the public can know when they can come back and help be able to provide feedback and input. I think that transparency would be really helpful as we close out the process. And my hope is that we can do what we can from a council perspective, from an elected perspective, to help give staff the resources that they need to be able to be successful in helping to work with Mid-Penn and continuing to advance this project forward as quickly as possible. I think there was another comment that I was going to throw in there, but I can't remember. And for sake of time, I'll just pass it back to Alan for the motion.
Sure. So I guess my motion would be that we council approves site project 4, that we, in addition, ask staff to develop a plan to accommodate the civic center parking for the public access, and that the development team be open as they move forward to other possible locations for some of the amenities.
Okay. Was that a second?
All right, Dr. Barber. Well, I'll give the second to Dr. Barber. Kim's coming up to the mic.
I'm sorry, I just need to make a technical clarification. You can't approve the project tonight, but you can provide direction to move forward with site plan number 4 and to develop the parking plan.
But it sounds like if we could, we would. So.
Okay, thanks for that correction, Kim.
One word change, please.
All right. Are you okay with that correction in the motion, Alan?
I am.
All right. And the seconder, are you okay with that? All right. So discussion on the motion?
Just a question, as Hans was explaining under SB 35, I wanted to make sure the public would see this again. It will come to the planning commission, is that correct? So it's all administrative. Okay, so I wanted to make sure I made a correction on my comments earlier that it's not going to ARC. It's not going to the planning commission, correct? And yeah, as an administrative process, and the only place it would come back to would be coming back to this council as we approve the planning details.
The DDA.
The
Development.
DNA?
Disposition and development agreement.
Yeah, I use the term ENA falsely. So.
Okay, so it'll come back to us with somewhat of refined ideas that's going to go into the preferred site. So as long as the public hears my correction, it's not going to the planning commission, not going to the ARC, but they do definitely want to pay attention to the city council agenda as this moves forward and comes back here. That's where the public can be engaged.
Anybody else comments? I remember the other comment that I was going to share, which is it seems like the conversation around parking, whether it's moving the park, whatever that might look like in totality, that parking conversation seems to be the thing that is causing some concern. And I want to reiterate, I hope that that's not something that prevents us from moving forward with a good project. And I don't think that that's the sense from anybody on the council. But maybe what would be helpful is to help advance that conversation now that it's clear where the council stands with this. So that way we can help alleviate that being a stressor in regards to how this project move forward. So with that, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Barber,
Yes.
Councilmember Hoffa,
Yes.
and Mayor Williamson.
That's a yes for me. And we would normally be going to public comment on items on the closed session, but I'm going to ask that we table to next week's council meeting for,
Is there anything timely?
nope, be checked.
Yeah, we continue to next week's council.
Continue. So I'll make a motion to continue closed session items number 1 and number 2 for next week. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Public comment on the motion. Anybody in the chamber? Let's take it online, please.
No hands are raised.
All right. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Hoffa,
Yes.
Councilmember Barber,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
and Mayor Williamson.
That's a yes for me, and the council meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much for being here today and participating.